Back in New York, WPH Race for 8, brought to you by Edel Handball at edelhandball.com. My name is Dave Vincent, alongside David Chapman and eventually David Fink. We'll have 3D in here as we get ready for Emmett Peixoto and Paul Brady. This men's round of 8 action. Already today, we've got a couple upsets. Luis Moreno upsetted by Robbie McCarthy. And David Fink, number 2 seed, taken down by Armando Ortiz. So we have the number 1 and number 2 seed in this tournament already out by the quarterfinals. And then we have the great Paul Brady and a guy that's been playing really good handball as of late, Emmett Peixoto.
Yep, Emmett's got his right arm back after the surgery. Took him a while to start swinging hard, but now he's definitely swinging real well with that right hand.
They just went and got a new one.
Paul Brady is trying to come back after having some issues with that finger. He shattered it playing Gaelic football, then injured it again playing handball, and then again playing handball, and then re-broke it playing handball again during the national finals, semifinals. He re-shattered his finger this last year and decided to play anyway in the finals and still dominated like he does. And he really hasn't played much handball since. So here is his inaugural come back into the game. Let's see how well that finger, does here.
Anthony Celestino and Daniel Cordova.
Okay, you heard the line judges, Anthony Celestino, Daniel Cordova on the left, and the referee is Luis Cordova, and there's the first serve from Paul Brady from County Cavan, Ireland. Emmett Peixoto from San Francisco, California now.
Point. 1-0. Point.
Just a few years back, Dave, you would see Paul Brady and Emmett playing each other in the semifinals of some really big tournaments, if not finals.
Point.
He's coming over that ball and is on the serve very well. That's his patented serve, just right over the line, reverse
3-0
into the wall. Not much you can do with it.
Side out.
And there's a side out.
0 serves 3.
I think it was 2 bounces. Paul's letting Emmett have that.
Emmett and I had a conversation before his match yesterday. He says,
1
Dave,
serves 3.
what can I do to try and beat Brady? What would you suggest? And I told him, I said, lob serve him and go for that first shot. I said, if you could make some quick points on him and keep it close, you got a shot. So he's trying that strategy. We'll see how it works.
1 serves 3.
Well, he got 1 point off of that strategy. Just getting him out of the server's box, though, well, how do you do that, Dave? I mean, you just go up to the ceiling on your first return and try to see if you can kind of emulate what you said about when you're serving and attack the next return?
I don't know if you can go to the ceiling off of his serve. It's so difficult. I think just a paddle left shot back down the left wall is the return, or maybe a hard fist down the right.
Appeal. Both agree.
Because you're just barely getting your hand on it, because you have to protect the serve on the right side too. So it's very difficult. He's got an excellent serve.
You know, Dave, Paul doesn't go up to the roof very often.
No,
He'll stay down with you if you want to stay down there. If you start going up top, he'll go up top if he has to. And there's a rare miss from Paul Brady, but a point from Emmett Peixoto. We're all together at 3. When you have engaged into ceiling shots with him, what is the result? Is he a good defensive player up there?
That's probably the weakest part of his game, is to the ceiling. Moving backwards, which is tough, difficult for everybody. But his all-around game is just so excellent.
5 serves 3.
You just have to be precise. He's missed a couple shots so far. in this match.
Let's see what happened here. Thought that Paul overhit that, but it checks up on the ceiling. Emmett's such a good retriever that he is able to get that power back from Paul.
And I like that shot. I like Emmett taking chances when he's in the service box.
3 serves 5.
How is Brady's creativity in the court? You got guys like Luis Moreno that are quite creative when they play. Sean Lenning, Alan Garner. Does Paul have a system, or is he a creative player as well?
Paul has a system. I feel like I know where Paul's going to go every time he hits the ball, but he hits it so crisp and so
4 serves
precise
5.
that you can't retrieve it.
Short. Second serve.
He just does all the fundamentals as good as anybody can.
And he misses another one of those setups. Right now, Paul looks good with everything but that shot right there.
Yeah, he
5 serves 4.
doesn't look great in this match so far.
Wow.
See, there it is. That's what you have to do against him. You have to get the weak return and make the shot, and Emmett is doing that so far.
6 serves 4.
I don't think anybody's ever scored more than 6 points off Paul Brady. That was me just being ironic.
No, it was a setup though. Side out.
Good call.
4 serves 6.
Wow, there's a lot of power right there.
Point.
That ball even got past Emmett, and he played that side of the wall. You played with the hardest hitters
5
in the
serves
game.
6.
John Bike, Toddy Severa,
Short.
and Paul Brady.
Desi Keegan.
Desi Keegan as well. Played him in Canada.
Second serve.
And Dave, I know they all have similar power, but Paul hits it like a real heavy ball.
Point.
Do you put him up there with the same type of power that Toddy
6
had?
serves 6.
Yes, absolutely.
Short.
Toddy shot the ball more than Paul,
Second serve.
but Paul's fundamentals are better.
His legs are huge. He gets a lot of that power from those legs.
Yep, legs
Shut
and
up.
hips is where he gets his power from. He really turns on the ball well. He's not using all arm when he's
6 serves 6.
contacting the ball.
Short. Deal. Call it short. Both agree. Second serve. Hold it.
Ooh, that ball
Ooh,
cracked out.
That did crack out. Emmett's not arguing, so it must have been a hinder.
6 serve 6. Short.
I'm not liking Emmett's second serve
Second
here.
serve.
Well, that one's a little bit better than
Was better
that
than the
power
first one.
serve. And that's a terrible return from Emmett, and he's going to get, I thought, exploited from Paul.
Shut out. No. I'll watch for it. I'll watch for it.
Paul's so fast that I don't know how you can
6
call it
serve
a hinder
6.
when he shades in front of you like that. He moves side to side about as quick as anybody.
Point. 7 serve 6.
It's a one-game match to 25. This is quarterfinals. Every match so far today has been an upset. Wow. Emmett's able to get that ball somehow back to the front wall. Paul's able to go over the top, keep it down. Now another point for Paul, 8-6.
8 serve 6. Short. Second serve. Hold it. Hold it.
Paul looked like he was trying to fight through a pick.
2 serves. 8 serve 6.
Dave, you're one of the only guys I can say this about, and I could be wrong even with this assessment.
Point.
Paul hits a laser, and there's a timeout for
Timeout
Memba
scores
Peixoto.
9 serving 6.
Yesterday I made that comment that the Elite 8 players, their natural is really a reverse, where they all go over the top of the ball. I don't feel that you're one of those guys that fits into that mode, that you go over the top of your shots as your natural hook, meaning that you reverse the ball when you hit your natural shot.
Yeah, my natural is a traditional natural, but I'm not in the Elite 8 either.
Well,
so
but you were, and you were in the Elite 8 in the history of the game. And Paul Brady does hit over the top of the ball.
Yes, he
he's
does.
Certainly in that realm. Emmett's there, Naughty, Dave Fink is doing it, and you see Sean and those guys all do it. But you were one of the very rare guys that could be as good as you are and not actually go over the top of the ball when you strike it. And you started playing at such a young age. But you do know when to use it, and you do use it methodically. So is it a thought process, or some of these guys just go over it? Like Naughty Jr.'s natural is definitely a reverse for everybody else. But is that something that it's just a way that you play, or is it something that you just think about when you play, when you want to use it in the rally and when you don't?
I only use it when I want to use it, and it's probably less than
9
10
serve
times
6.
in a match, because I really want to get a point off of it when I reverse it. So I'm reversing for the point and not just to hit it and play with a reverse.
Point.
Paul hit that ball so hard.
10 serve 6. Short.
I guess the reason why I brought it up is because
Second serve.
I said one time as a gauge that, well, when a player is an elite player, if they hit a reverse as their natural, that's when you know. Because I don't see guys that are, ranked 35 that are hitting reverses, as their natural stroke. But then
10 serve 6.
I was quickly reminded by a guy like John Bike who said, well, Dave Chapman doesn't. So that ruined my argument. Now Emmett is just losing these points here to Paul Brady, who's looking like the Paul Brady of
11
old.
serve 6.
Yeah, and Emmett's looking like a defensive player now instead of an offensive player. He's just getting the ball
Point.
back. And you can't do that against Paul. You've got to take chances. You've got to go for your shots. If you're going to be a retriever, you're going to be a loser against him.
12 serve 6.
But Emmett started the match off with that philosophy that I'm going to be in charge, and he kind of was.
He was, and he's not able to be keeping the pressure on, and Paul's starting to run away with this match. See another one. He should take shots with his left hand and try to kill the ball.
Right here, you have to go bottom board, right? You can't.
That was a tough shot there.
Cut out.
Paul makes a hand air with that underhand paddle to the left corner.
6 serves 12.
See if Emmett can kind of get that philosophy back here. That's an overhit from Paul, and that's exactly what you brought up, how you can get points off Paul is maybe to serve that lob and hope for an overhit, and then you have to execute.
You've got to
12
make that
serves
next
6.
shot.
Paul going to the,
Short.
looking over to the right side, serving to the left. Dave, you played against Naughty Jr.,
serve.
who's got that head fake and all those little things that he does when he's serving. But now you've seen these younger guys are trying to give you that head fake before they serve. They'll look over to the right and then serve to the left.
Point.
See, Paul does it. Armando Ortiz kind of lives off that sort of philosophy.
13 serve 6.
Maybe that's just been around forever.
Yeah, Paul's tough to read off the serve, and now he's just in control like a machine.
14 serve 6.
Wow, that's a triple bounce back wall
15 serve 6.
as we go into halftime. Emmett very frustrated with himself. 15-6. We're going to take a 3-minute break. Paul is going to give Cordova the ball back and say, just keep this thing warm. You don't want that rolling out on this floor. It's so cold back here. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in 3 minutes for Dave Chapman, Dave Fink, Dave Vincent. We'll be back in just a few minutes here for the conclusion of this one-game match to 25 at racefor8.com.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all living united to ensure the academic success of millions of kids in our communities all the way to graduation day. But that won't happen without you. So take the pledge at unitedway.org. Make a difference in the life of a child. Suit up like your favorite NFL players and become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor with United Way.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
All right, let's go. Emmett serve.
Back in New York at the Athletic Club for the WPH Race for 8, stop number 4 at the NYAC. This is the conclusion of this match. After halftime comes back in, Emmett Peixoto will be serving up against Paul Brady. It's the quarterfinals, one-game match to 25. You have to win by 2.
15.
Referee Luis Cordova. My name is Dave Vincent alongside Dave Fink and David Chapman. And Dave, you gave Emmett some advice there. He goes back to that original philosophy that you were trying to give him from that conversation from yesterday, that lob serve to start and then attack the next shot. See if Emmett takes some of your advice here.
We've seen some really strange errors from Paul Brady to start this game and now to start halftime. 2 terrible errors already in the second half, and it seemed like Paul got into his groove.
Called it good. Both disagree. Second
At the
serve.
end of that first half, he made some really great shots that we're used to seeing Paul Brady make.
Second serve.
And that's
Well,
not a good shot
that's
there.
a strange shot.
Yeah, he misjudged that serve.
Emmett's in the driver's seat there, and he's
Point.
just barely able to execute that pass shot down the right. But he is
9
getting
serves,
points.
15.
You don't feel like this match is out of reach by any
15 serves,
means for
9.
Emmett. Paul's been very inconsistent. Emmett's had a
Court.
lot of opportunities. He's made a couple of really nice kills with his
Second
right.
serve.
His right has actually looked stronger for the first time in a couple of years here in this match.
You know, Dave, we were talking about players that have targets on their back, saying that Luis Moreno, you know, has this target and people just want to pick him off. But, I mean, couldn't you say that about Paul
9
Brady
serves,
as well?
15.
I mean, there's probably no bigger target than Paul Brady.
Wow.
Shut out.
You see it, just an amazing back wall kill shot there from
15
Brady.
serves, 9.
And Dave, when Paul first started coming in
16
to
serves,
the
9.
to the scene, back when they were still calling him gunner because he would just go for the bottom board on everything, very aggressive. Where did his game change? Where, I mean, because he still does have that back wall laser shot. I think before he might have taken more
17 serves,
chances
9.
than he does now. What's the difference between then, back maybe 2000, compared to now?
I think he's stronger now. His serves are better now, and you know, like I was saying, his fundamentals have just gotten better and better as time's gone on.
And there's a miss hit right there. Emmett has to execute those corner kills. He has Paul Brady. He has a side out there, and he doesn't get it across. And when you said this to him when he came in during halftime,
18
Dave,
serves, 9.
you said, you need to go for those kill shots. And he says, it's sort of like he's in my head. You know, Paul's in my brain, or whatever his quote was there.
He felt like he feels like there's pressure on him, which there shouldn't be any pressure on him. The pressure's
serves,
on
9.
Brady. You know, Emmett's not supposed to win
Short.
this match, so go for broke. You got nothing to lose.
Second serve.
Paul hits an amazing angle on that Z serve, and when you're sitting in that back left corner court side, it's incredible how he's able to put it in that spot. And Emmett's got a very strong left, but that ball is scraping the
19
back
serves,
wall
9.
almost every time.
Do you have to step in and try to catch that before it
I
even
don't-
hits a wall?
I don't think you can.
Timeout.
I don't think you can
Scores
either.
20,
Yeah.
serving
The
9.
thing is, he hides it, so you don't know it's going to go over to be one of those two-wall serves until he actually hits it.
Well, you know, he can hit the sharp angle or the more shallow angle, so you can't guess. You know, you have to wait for the ball to come out.
There's nothing worse than to actually think a player is going to do that, and then they slide a natural hook down the right wall, because it's pretty much the same arm motion when they're serving from that left side wall.
I
Paul
think
Brady
you can
was-
step up and fly that too. I think would be the way to return it if he's hitting that good of a serve.
Paul Brady was seen here on Monday night serving for 4 hours straight down the left on this court. And Paul Brady is not at his best right now. We've seen glimpses of it in this match, but we've seen some uncharacteristic play from him as well. But you have to think he's just going to continue to get stronger in this event. Winner of this plays Armando Ortiz.
Who does look really good.
Serves 9.
You know, Paul just looks like just an amazing athlete. If you didn't even know what sport he played, you'd think he was a pro athlete.
Look at that touch.
That's a great paddle shot there. I haven't seen him hit that before.
21 serves 9.
That was one of the hardest balls that Emmons hit in the entire match.
Back wall set up. And then that's what you said earlier, Dave. It's just making some of these strange errors. And look at Paul, very frustrated with himself. He's up 21-9, but he knows that he's reaching for perfection.
9 serves 21.
Took his eye guards off, just totally disgusted with himself.
Yeah, that's a full tantrum for
Point.
Paul.
That's also another rare sight. We see
10
double
serves,
digits
21.
against Paul Brady.
Short. Second serve.
That's an avoidable hinder there. No call from the referee. Paul just finds a way to get back up, and you're going to see an argument here because I think there's one player on this court that knows that that was an avoidable.
Not out.
It just doesn't happen.
21 serves
Doesn't make
10.
sense why he didn't argue that call. It was I mean,
short.
That is an avoidable.
Well, Paul's not used to diving. I've not seen him dive this many times ever. He doesn't know what to do when he's down there.
Both of these guys just twisting themselves into a pretzel.
Hold it.
Both guys were off balance there on shots that you thought they would have had good opportunities to
10.
hit bottom board kills. Oh, that's an amazing shot from Paul. Looked like he'd have to hit a hard pass down the left,
10.
but he just changed the angle of his hand and hit a great kill to the right.
Point.
Emmett giving up on that last point.
Twenty-three serves 10. Not out.
That's Paul's 12th unforced error in this one-game match to 25. We've seen him make less
10
errors
serves
than that in an
23.
entire tournament. 4 rounds.
But, you know, if you were Emmett, you have to feel that you did fairly well knowing that you had some opportunities. You didn't execute them, so you can be upset with those. But Paul did give him chances today.
Well, I believe Emmett was up 6-3, Dave, so he's been outscored 20-4 in the last 24 points scored. So
True, but a lot of that is at the hand of himself. He was serving a few times. He went for corner kills or aggressive shot. He just missed them. I mean, I'm not saying the score would have been anything different. Maybe he could be up to 17 right now. There's been some opportunities Paul's given him and he didn't execute.
well, let's not forget Paul's missed a few shots as well. That's a good shot from Emmett.
See, now Emmett does execute that one, but Emmett will go home and say, you know, I think it will make him a better player after this.
I think Emmett matches up pretty well against Paul. He has the ability to slow the game down and make a lot of gets, and he's had setups, and when Emmett's comfortable, he can put those away.
The problem with Paul is we all don't get to play him very much, so a few times you do get to see what he has. It's tough to get used to that style because he's so much better than everybody.
But wouldn't the opposite also be true? If he played everybody, he'd just be beating them worse.
Not out.
He got used to their style.
No, because when you're on top like that, I feel like you've always got to put that pressure on yourself to come out and play the best every time. Everybody's gunning for you. Everybody's trying to figure out ways to beat you, and it's tough to be that good every match, every tournament.
Well, Paul's somehow been able to find that trick of doing what Tiger Woods was doing when he was dominating for the 5-6 year span, where he just seems like the other players are intimidated. To hear Emmett even say and admit out loud that I feel like I've got so much pressure on me to execute those shots because he is playing Paul Brady. Paul's kind of got that sort of system where he plays only the major tournaments and he just dominates every time he comes out. And I think you're right. If you were able to play him more, you'd maybe catch what a tendency is and maybe exploit it a little bit more. But I think what Dave is saying is like, well, Paul would be able to do the same thing to you. I mean, he'd find out some of your weaknesses and maybe level the playing field with that.
when you sit courtside and watch Paul, it's amazing what he can do with his hands when he's off balance. He still can flick his wrist and do a lot with the ball.
23 serves 10.
He can hit amazing front wall, sidewall angles that take you out of the front court when you think that you're in a position to get a setup.
A little bit of contact, no call from the ref. Paul was actually pushing him out of the way there.
Emmett's dejected now.
Very.
I don't think tired at all, but it hasn't been that physical of a match.
Well, Emmett's upset with himself here.
Well, you know, and that's the end of the match there for Paul Brady. And Paul has to feel good. He was tested there. He got through a couple rough patches, but for Emmett, has to be disappointed. Emmett's training incredibly hard right now. He's working out a couple times a day and traveling around the country to play against the top players. And this is what he's training for, an opportunity like this against Paul Brady on the big stage. And unfortunately for him, came up short today. But for Paul Brady, it's another routine win. And Dave will be seeing him at 5 o'clock tonight, Eastern Standard Time, against Armando Ortiz, who's qualified and made another semifinals.
Do you find it even more pressure in that sort of pressure that Emmett was talking about when he said that he just felt too much pressure when he has an open shot, that when you put pressure on yourself in practice and you get prepared for a tournament, when you find yourself traveling from Northern California down to Southern California for a whole week, or flying in Luis Moreno to play with him for a few days to try to get some extra games in, and you say to yourself, I'm playing really good right now. My ceiling game's better. I'm hitting the ball. I'm striking it better. And then you go in there and you see that you're not executing after all that hard work you put in. You think that dejectiveness that you saw with Emmett, I don't know if that's a word, but when he would go for a corner kill and leave it up, and when Paul executed, Emmett would say, "What am I doing? I put all this hard work in, and then it just seems to be piling on."
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Dave, because I hate to make this all about me, but I felt the same way this morning. I put so much into playing well in this tournament, and to come out and play as badly as I did, I could have not played for a year and played that well. And it does add expectations because you have good practice sessions and you feel really good about your game, and you come in with high expectations, and with high expectations comes pressure that is self-imposed. And maybe that is a little bit of what Emmett's going through, also a combination of playing against Paul Brady, a guy that, is the best player in the world, and Emmett's never beat him. And, you combine those factors and, you end up not playing up to your potential.
Well, Emmett loses here to our game's best player, Paul Brady, and he finds himself into the 5th through 8th playoff. We are going to take a quick break. We have Nadi Alvarado and John Iglesias coming up right around the corner. So we'll catch that in just a few. In fact, that's about 15, 20 minutes away from right now. So you stay around. It'll be just a blank court here for a few minutes as we get prepared for our last quarterfinal match of the day. And then we'll take a break where we'll have men's semis and women's semis to close out the rest of the afternoon. But before that gets to us, we're going to have a Nadi Alvarado, John Iglesias sighting. For Dave Fink, Dave Chapman, my name is Dave Vincent. You stick around. More handball action here at racefor8.com coming up.
It's time to join forces. Get energized and fuel up right. Because starting today, every kid in America has a mission. Bring out the action hero in you. Greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.